Greetings, nerds. This is SNN Nerd. I'm your host, Sarah Belmont, and with me, as always, is our Mr. Producer, Will Polk. How are you doing tonight, Will?
Doing very well, Sarah. Happy Thursday and happy Batman Premiere Eve night.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is. Wow.
It's finally here.
It's finally here.
Yeah.
What?
I said, got my tickets for this weekend. I decided to splurge, and I'm going to go see it in IMAX.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very, very good.
Yeah.
Very good. I am. I think I'm going to end up going on Tuesday. That's my current plan.
Okay.
We'll see. You know, strange things have happened when I've made plans to go see major movies. So.
Oh, I know. What's the weather? I'm looking at the weather forecast for your town in Alaska.
Yeah, it's not that bad.
Okay,
like,
good.
It's fine.
Good.
So.
Good. Okay.
Yeah. It shouldn't be a problem, but I didn't think it was going to be a problem last time, and it was. So, but yeah, the Batman is finally hitting theaters, and so everyone can just be like, yeah, it's a good movie. We knew that 2 years ago when we saw the trailer.
Yeah, exactly.
2 years ago.
Yeah.
More than 2 years ago.
More than 2 years. Yeah,
it feels so weird.
It really is. It really is. But it's finally here.
Yeah. All right. So in other news, Patrick Stewart confirms his return as Professor X in Doctor Strange 2, only probably irritating Will more about that trailer.
Yeah, it's funny. So he did. Yeah, he was doing an interview earlier this week, and he was talking about how, he's watching the Super Bowl. He had turned his sound down on his TV and stuff, and his PR folks started pinging him whenever the internet exploded, when everybody heard his voice. And I think he, so he went back and he watched it, and he was like, I didn't realize that was me, that people could pick it up, because he didn't, he's like, maybe I had a cold or something. But yeah, he pretty much confirmed he was in it. And, he was basically saying he was happy to see everyone's reactions to hearing his voice. And I guess people like even got down to like picking out his earlobes and crazy shit like that, as far as figuring out that was him. Not that if you missed a voice, then I guess his ears was confirmation for other fans.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they're gonna find the Easter eggs, but then again, Disney could have done a better job hiding the Easter eggs.
Yes, I'm still, like I said, from that point, I was like, from that point forward, I'm just going to follow the Belmont rule. Just stay away from trailers.
Stay away from trailers. Trailers do you no good. Like I was hyped after the first minute and a half trailer of the Batman, and ever since the two, what feels more like 6-minute long trailers that I do try to avoid, but sometimes they just happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh my God, I feel like I've seen this movie.
Yep.
I feel like I've seen it. But, I haven't, and I'm sure that there's some surprises in there or some things that I wasn't expecting. But
for sure.
It's also hard because my expectations, even though I live under this idea always low, I have to say they're high.
Yeah.
And I just know that I'm going to come out being like, it's good. Not as good as I thought, but it was good. It's good. What else is going on? Marvel's just has the headlines, I guess, this week, even though DC is gonna take the box office. All 6 of the original Marvel Netflix. I feel like we've talked about this.
Yes, so we did, but. No, but there is more to it. There is more to it, because when we did talk about it, I believe 2 weeks ago, it was just they were all leaving Netflix to go somewhere. Not sure if they were going to go to Disney Plus or if they were going to go, or where they were going to end up on the Disney platform. But this week they did confirm that the Netflix shows on March the 16th will go to Disney Plus, and also they will be updating the parental control settings on Disney Plus as well. So because they will be unedited as far as the Netflix shows. So they're doing their rollout to update the parental controls so that TVMA programming can now be on Disney Plus. And I know that also lends itself to I think Feige noting that Moon Knight is going to be more gritty, more intense than some of the fare that we've had before. So that's why I added this back on here for this week.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they're all gonna premiere on Disney Plus on March 16th.
Correct.
The shows include Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Agent Carter, Cloak and Dagger, and The Runaways. But in other news, Feige has also shared that the Defenders verse shows or characters could be revived on Disney Plus as well.
Yep.
Don't tease me, Feige. Don't tease me.
Yeah, he did say that. Yeah, he did say that with so we could see Daredevil. Now I can finally get caught up with Daredevil.
No, you're never gonna get caught up. See, I'm not even going Daredevil. I'm like, I need closure on the Frank and Karen relationship, the Punisher and Karen Page. So, Feige, don't tease me because I've read a lot of fan fiction. No. Actually, I've never read a fan fiction about them too. That's weird.
That is weird. Yeah.
I don't know why. I don't know. I've never gone that route. The last bit of news is Ariana Dubose has joined the cast of Kraven the Hunter as Calypso. Calypso.
Yep, Calypso. Yeah, not to be confused with the Calypso from Stargirl, but so that was the other big Marvel news from this week, and looks like they're upping their game with these Spider-Verse films on the Sony side of the house, but still no Spider-Man.
Yes, everyone, you just heard that Will said they are upping their game on the Sony villain movie franchises, which we have still yet to see. Like, me and you personally have yet to watch one of those movies.
Exactly.
They're upping their game.
Yeah, maybe I'll finally break down with Kraven.
Will is tired tonight, if you haven't realized. Very tired.
Yeah, they wore me down.
Wore you down? Speaking of wearing down, what did you think about the Batwoman finale?
So this episode, I can say, and part of it is, I think, just some of the things that happened on Twitter this week with the Batwoman's writer's room, and we're not going away, but we're not sure if we're not going away tweets that they sent.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So just to frame it for the discussion tonight. Yeah. So I think, last year, and I think even a year before, CW has been very quick on to pull the trigger on saying, oh yeah, everybody's renewed. But right. And usually we know by this time that everyone's gotten their renewals, but we haven't heard anything for any of the shows, right? I mean, and so fandom is starting to get worried. People are like tweeting the Batwoman account and the Batwoman's writers room, they're very active tweeters, and they basically sent this long, very thank you fans for always having our back, and we love hearing from you, blah blah blah. And it sounded like a preparing for goodbye message is going to be coming soon from the studio. But then everybody, they were like, no, we don't know what's going to happen with season 4. And I even from our show account even tweeted them and say, this sounds like a hedge in your bets kind of tweet. And they're like, no, we're good. We're just still waiting to hear from the studio. So I say that in that, looking at the episode this week, it could go either way. If we get word that the show is canceled, the way that this ended, the way that the season finale ended, could serve as a series finale, because they did tie up a lot of loose ends with this episode. But they also left the door open for a renewal as well with an unnamed villain doing, murdering the TV reporter and the cameraman.
Who do you think that unnamed villain is?
Well, I have no idea. I really don't, and I think it's intentional because I did manage to read Caroline Dries had an interview where she talked about this past season and this gets into the permissions that the show can use certain characters and stuff. So she has some ideas. She says she has some ideas for who that particular character could be, but she is still working on all the permissions for utilizing some of the other DC characters.
Right. No, I didn't know that they had done that. So it does shed some light on why this finale it in a weird way settled 90% of everything, but left like a little tease that isn't too big, where if they do get canceled, fans are gonna riot. But if everything else is pretty much buttoned up. I mean, the in that though, some of the ways that they tied up loose ends. Okay, I'm just gonna call out my biggest issue of the night was, I get it. Ryan wanted her brother, mom, who she met 2 weeks ago, back and all normal and everything, so they could be a family. But did they forget that to do that successfully, they had to tell the police that he killed his father? So why do they think that they're gonna live all happily ever after?
It's the Arrowverse. That's what we do.
It just bothered me because there's this like, are you good? And then I'm like, you guys, like, shouldn't he be in custody?
But for sure. But to be fair, that could also that's this comic book justice system, because to be fair, you could also say the same for WandaVision. So
but that's Marvel. Okay, we're criticizing DC right now. Well, pay attention.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying. I just don't want people to say, "Oh, there goes Will again, taking easy pot shots at the Arrowverse." But no,
they never blame you. They always blame me.
Yeah, I know. I know. But no, but you're right. I mean, I think that, and that, I guess it's the same not only for Marcus, but also you can say the same for Alice and Beth as well, because how long has she been like roaming the streets of Gotham and cannot stay in Arkham or anywhere for that matter, as far as the things that she's done. So.
And in a single episode where at one point she's locked up and then in the blink of an eye she's out, and you're like, oh, I mean, the actress who plays Alice, Rachel Skarsten, I think, she phenomenal job this episode. I much prefer this episode and what they did with that, because I actually felt at points empathetic for her. But I much prefer it this episode than I did last week's episode, and I liked the interactions with Ryan, and talking about it tonight makes me realize is that maybe that's also what's been missing. They spent so much time focused on Mary and Alice that we kind of didn't get that push and pull of the Ryan Alice dynamic until the very end. Granted, she had her hands tied with family reunions. Again, with a family she met 2 weeks ago. Like, she never even met her brother before he was a psychopath. Or did we? Because there was a period of time when he was normal, and then next thing we know, no, your brother has issues.
Yeah. It was interesting how, thinking back to the earlier parts of the season, they did disclose the family relationships and stuff, but it was, you're right. I mean, it was whenever they had to turn, whenever they learn all this, and then the videos of him and his father, um, and Marcus. I guess whenever the whole poison ivy thing started to unfold itself, and you still had all the various back gadgets. So, I think overall, I know we had our issues with the season, and it has some highs, it has some lows. Felt like, here seeing some of the things that Caroline talked about as far as like why they could only, like, for example, have poison ivy. Why was that story was so short? Apparently, it only had permission to use that character for like 3 episodes.
Yeah.
So when I start seeing those types of things, and I know I had some criticisms as far as the villain lights, but the knockoff villains where we couldn't have the prime. Seeing those kind of things, I do have to commend the writing team over the course of the season for given the hand that they've been dealt by DC Comics and permissions that they can use for these characters. I think they did, on balance, I understand why they made the creative choices that they did. So that being said, I do feel that I think you did make a very good point that the relationship between Ryan and Alice definitely seemed to take a back seat for some pretty pivotal points in the season, that where obviously they really, part of that was just narratively because Mary became Poison Mary, but I did miss their interactions, and the scene that we had in the finale definitely reminded me of like why they play so well off of each other.
Right. I mean, granted, I always feel like very few characters don't play off of Alice well. Mm-hmm. But it just, if you only get rights to a villain for 3 episodes, maybe you choose a different villain.
Yeah.
Because we've had this discussion far too many times, Will. Like, mm-hmm. These seasons are just as dependent on a well-rounded hero as it is a villain.
Yeah.
And you can have a slow build, and then just your villain comes out, or the big villain of the season comes out and then takes you into that end game scenario. But you've earned like that slow start. Like, that's what happened with Stargirl not mm-hmm. too long ago. And then we've had other villains where they're around from day one, and it's just like the way they're able to develop that complexity that is needed to have a strong season. It's required that you see them, but you don't play all the cards at once. And right. I feel like, as much as I can understand that, okay, well, they wanted to do this, but they had limited time to do it, maybe go scale it back and choose something else.
Yeah.
The Flash, even despite all of my criticism for the Flash, it has over the years done very well taking obscure rogues from the gallery and making them primetime villains. I mean, yeah, they do go to that well far too many times, but
yeah,
there are some one-offs that they do right. So
yep.
I don't know. Maybe it's also just a matter of, between the Flash, Arrow, Legends, all of these shows, that rogue gallery that DC has is just very thin right now. So.
Yeah. Well, I think this franchise has been around for 10 years now, as far as the Arrowverse, mm-hmm. and so it is starting to show its age, clearly it's a foundation for a lot of the things that shows that TV superhero shows can work on TV and now work on streaming. There's a lot to, we have to tip our hats to them for opening that door and really making it, obviously starting with Smallville, but then really expanding with Arrow and Flash and others to show that it's a viable entertainment, vehicle for these characters. And I know I saw where like on Legends, I guess Booster Gold is another character that they've introduced, and so I know a lot of DC fans were very happy. So there's definitely a deep bench, and I know we talked about this even earlier this season with Batwoman that they really so far they've explored some of Batwoman's gallery, but some they've made like Wolf Spider, he's half friend, half foe. And then of course this season we had the knockoff of the Batman's gallery, so for a good chunk of the season. So and then of course we had a knockoff Joker with Marcus. So but so I think you're right. Whenever they were so they teased Poison Ivy so heavy that whenever we did finally get her, it was honestly a huge letdown. The way they ended up using her in the story, and
they gave us Poison Mary.
Yeah, they gave us Poison Mary just because they couldn't do a bigger, longer arc with Poison Ivy, and I guess they creatively they used that as a way to like have Mary have her trial and tough season arc, just to basically give her something else to do other than just being the comic relief to the guy in the chair. So
do you want to move on to something that I think you're dying to talk about as opposed to something that we've kind of beaten to death?
Sure, let's do it.
Yeah, I haven't watched it. Haven't watched it, but I did hear, because you just posted it and just went off last night on Twitter.
Yeah.
But you had the luxury of watching Picard season 2 premiere.
I did. I was lucky enough to get a screener for the season 2 premiere, which did drop today on Paramount Plus. And I have to say, I did. It's rare. It's one of those things. I was so excited about it that I was like, okay, I'm gonna jump on and just, go ahead and get my non-spoiler thoughts out. And I'll still say non-spoiler because I do want you to watch it, and for you to hear your, and then we can have a full spoiler discussion about it. I guess this episode and then hopefully and some more this season, because I will say, starting off, they definitely, from a non-spoiler standpoint, they definitely saw what they did in season 1, saw the flaws in season 1 as far as the creative choices they took Picard and expectations that fans had for like a follow-up to the Next Generation, and did a time jump and for about a year, and really took these characters and put them in new places where there was like all clear growth, and there was also really gave us more context and more background about why Jean-Luc is the man that he is today, especially in matters of love and closeness and relationships. And so it's really, really, really good. I mean, the season premiere had a good balance of action. It had plenty of good character development. It did a really good job of just resetting everyone, just to remind everyone, like, here are our key players as far as like Rafi and Cristobal Rios and Soji and Seven. Everybody is like, okay, here's where they are a year and a half later after the events of season 1, where Picard gets his replicant body, and so and it starts out, Picard is he's reestablished his life in France, but he's got other things going on as well, and so it's it's a really, like I said, the hour zips by because there's so much stuff going on. It was very very engaging television. I think it was kind of a soft reboot of the show in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
Not that season 1 was bad, because of the new Trek series, I think I've come to I really do enjoy it more so than, say, Star Trek Discovery, which is sadly more and more is becoming my least favorite of the new Trek series that are out there. I think Star Trek Lower Decks is so much better. Star Trek Prodigy, which just ended its first season, better, I think. Stranger Worlds, of course, comes in May, so the jury's still out. But yeah.
But it's the only show that you've also gotten me to actually watch the full season. So I think that also says something.
And I think you will. Yeah, I mean, the way they ended this episode, there's no secret. Q is back. That's not a spoiler. And Guinan is also back as well. And so we get Whoopi Goldberg and John Delancey are back, and they have some good explanations for, given that these two characters are immortals, why they age and stuff. And it's, again, so you can't really nitpick on those kind of points. I think the one thing that I would, if I did have a nitpick, and I said this in my non-spoiler review as well, is that if you're a casual fan or new to Trek fan, there are some things that if you didn't watch The Next Generation, you may miss. But they do a decent job. I think they do a good job of using some exposition to fill in the blanks there for fans who may have not, you don't need to go back and watch 7 years worth of TV shows to fill in all of those blanks. But
right.
But at the same time, things obviously would land different for me than they would for casual Star Trek fan.
Oh yeah, I think I recall that from season 1 of Picard, where you could, like, it's very easy for you to give a review without spoiling anything for me, because you'll drop names and I'm like, sure, whoever that was.
Yeah.
I don't know anything that he's hinting at. But at the same time, watching the show, I was able to understand the narrative of that show.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't get satisfaction from the little Easter eggs, or like, oh, they're making a connection here to this show, to this character and that. But those things, I think, like, an Easter egg is designed for someone who is obsessed with the franchise. They're not designed for casual viewers, nor should they be, because there's something special about being part of that fandom and understanding those like, it gives your takeaways from the show a whole different meaning. So I mean, I do think that Picard did a good job in the first season. Granted, it's been a while. I feel like it's been years since we've
it's been 2 years, because this is one of those ones during the first part of the pandemic that we picked up. Yeah.
So I'm like, wow, Picard's coming.
Yeah, it's been like 2 years.
Got it. So, but when you were listing some of the characters like Ralphie and Soji, I was like, okay.
Yep. But you're right about the East. Yeah, you're right about the Easter eggs. I had that moment last night with one particular one that that even the title of the episode kind of alluded to. And then when it happened, and I was like, oh, I was just granted ear to ear. I was like, wait a minute, I was like literally pointing at my computer screen. I was like, oh yeah. So there's definitely those moments. I like I said, I think it was a great kickoff to the season. I think the way the story, they just opened up the door to I think was going to be a pretty amazing run. And then I think they are filming seasons 2 and 3 back to back. So because obviously Patrick's a busy guy. I mean, he's working in Marvel, he's doing other things. So I think they're going to be wrapping season 3 soon as far as production for it. So and I think I can't recall if that's going to be it or not. I have to go back and double check, but yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to talking about the show with you.
Yeah. Another show that Will likes to talk about is Naomi, and we had another episode. We actually found ourselves in a similar yet not familiar lab, Star Labs, as Naomi finds herself in there, and it took a dark turn. For a moment, I was like, "Oh, this will be interesting. I wonder what's going to happen next episode," because this scientist has kidnapped a teenage girl.
Yeah.
Oh, and then within a minute, it's like, "Nope, we're going to end this here." I'm like,
yep.
"Oh, okay."
Yeah.
I don't really like that, but whatever. Yeah. This is fine. There's something still missing there, and I can't put my finger on it. There's just an element about this show. I'm just gonna say it. It's almost too kid friendly.
Yeah.
I feel like compared to and we have yet to talk about Superman and Lois tonight, but there's 2 young boys and a young girl in that show, and the majority of it we're dealing with adult issues. And I get it. It's on the CW. It's meant for teenagers and everything. But I would still say, even for a teenager, though, there's something very kid friendly about this.
Yeah.
I'm not even saying teenager friendly. It's almost kid friendly. And it's just I don't know why they're doing that. But I think that maybe there's an element that they're really holding back on, or just not committing to yet for some reason.
Yeah. That's I hadn't thought of it that way, but now that you mentioned it, you're right. I think that's that edge is missing, and it doesn't have to be like a Peacemaker edge. I mean, it can be.
No.
Yeah. But I think as you noted, just even on the network itself with Superman and Lois, I mean, there is a more of a middle brow or harder edge with some of the issues that the show is addressing, that gives it some more heft. Whereas I think Naomi, I mean, it's like, I enjoy it. Here's the thing that's for me with when I watch this show. So the first, like, it takes me a minute to get into it.
Right.
When it first starts, I'm like, okay. And I'm like, it's sort of like it's a build up, and it's kind of like, okay, so the first 5, probably the first act, I'm kind of like, okay, I'm not fully locked in. But then they'll do but they do this thing like this week, for example, when they find the piece of the spaceship. When Annabelle and Naomi find the piece, and go in that warehouse or whatever and find that, then I was like, oh, okay, now I'm hooked. I mean, they got the little MacGuffin for the week, and then I start getting drawn in, and then they'll cut away, and they're dealing with Anthony and Nathan's, bro drop, man drama over student council elections or whatever, or the fundraiser. And I was just like, okay, and I think that's what that's when I'm like, I'm not so interested in this. But then let me get back to what's going on with the prime story here.
Right. Again, I'm going to continue calling them Scooby-Doo gang, not needed. And we talked about this a little last week about how the problem with the friend group is they don't have their individual stories that contribute to Naomi's overall journey.
Right.
Because we're still dealing with that secret thing. And so this week it was just like, oh, Sarah said that last week, so this week we're gonna have the boys get into trouble together. And I'm like, well, now you're just taking away about 20 minutes of the episode, which I could care less about what happens there. And I'm way more curious of what's going on with Naomi, what's going on with Dee.
Yes,
is the best supporting character on the show.
Because
he's just fascinating, and he's able to serve in this mentor / dad figure, and it is really quickly where they're able to build that bond and develop that trust, and that just means one thing: real dad has to go.
Yeah.
Adopted dad has to go. There's a new adopted father in town, okay? And he's alien too, so he's got that.
Yeah, Dee's stories to me is like that's one of I have to be honest. I mean, that's one of the things that's keeping me like engaged in the show. I'm just very curious to see where things go with him and finding Quella, and and I like the little touches they had, with this the bar that he was in. It's like, nope, the human powers only, which I did like the way they structured that with Dee's training of Naomi earlier in the episode about you can't always use your powers.
Right.
And then they followed up in the episode where with the fight in the bar whenever he's trying to get information from that guy. So those are good things about the show that the show does well.
Right, because Dee gives the viewers expands the world. Yes, he's protecting Naomi, and they have a bond and everything, but he's also, with each episode, has this other story arc going with, well, what happened with Quella and him, and why are they separated? Is she alive? Is she dead? We're starting to play that game. But then he spends the majority of this time in a bar with other aliens, and there's these rules, so it builds this world that with the high school students, we're not getting that world, because honestly, we've seen that world. We didn't sign up for that world. I mean, that's why Stargirl, and sorry I keep bringing up that show, but it's a good comparison point, because we're talking about teenage characters. But Stargirl works well in a high school setting, not because she herself is a teenage girl, but because she's suddenly formed this teenage version of the Justice League, the Justice Society. So, and they have their villains who are also attending high school. So it like, you're not limiting the world, you're expanding the world in that setting. Where here, we're still not there. We're just not there, because these kids still think like only one of them knows, really, but she's only used sparingly.
Right.
Like, what would be interesting is to understand what the effects of having the secret has on her life, because she's trying to protect her friend. I mean, it would be interesting if her dad was in the military and maybe going after Naomi, and what this whole secret would do. But
that's a good point.
So I think there's potential here. It's just they're still trying to figure out this trajectory, because I don't want to be season 2 last half of the season and then we finally figure out what the 29 is.
Yeah,
like,
for
this
sure.
mystery can only hold so long.
Exactly. Yeah, and now with getting back to how you started with talking about the Star Labs, the scientists there, and again, that was one of those things. I was like, as soon as that happened, I was like, okay, we know where this is going.
Mm-hmm.
But and I guess with I guess they're trying to use that to show whether or not to make us continue to question what's the deal with Zimbabwe.
Yeah, we need to spend an entire episode with him. We need an episode through his eyes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
we need more from him, just like we're getting not a lot, but we're getting just enough with D.
Yeah. I mean, because the moments that we have gotten from him so far has like painted him like, oh, this dude's shady, but you're right. If we could get more things from his perspective, then I think this shades of gray that we all of a sudden get at the end of this episode, where he's been playing this on the one hand, he's playing this protective mode, but on the other hand, he's like, you're a disappointment, Naomi. We saw such potential in you, but you're, whenever she was, trying to, when they got into a little fight earlier in the episode. So, yeah.
He literally went to her house and threatened her parents.
Yeah.
They're using him in a very weird way, where we're supposed to think he's shady, but this whole protective thing is just manipulation.
Mm-hmm.
Because we know from previous conversations he has had with other people who are part of the 29 that he needs her for his overall plan, and we don't know what that plan is. But then it's really weird, because then you break into her house, threaten her parents, telling her parents to take Naomi and get out of here.
Mm-hmm.
But yet you need her.
Yeah.
And yet he is coming. Is he the real father? Is he?
Yeah, I don't know if he's the real father, but he definitely is behind whatever happened on Earth 29.
Oh, no, I'm not saying Zimbabwe. I don't think they would have already been hinting at that if that was true.
Yeah, okay.
I when I was saying it's that person who is supposedly coming after Naomi and will stop at nothing to find her.
Yeah.
I'm questioning, is that
got it.
So and it's part of the reason why they're maybe it was Zimzado the whole time who's been protecting Naomi and like left her on that rock.
Mm-hmm.
But see, there's so much mystery. There's not, and I don't know how many episodes into the season. We need some answers at this point.
Yeah. Hopefully, I think next week is episode 7, and then I understand they're taking another break for a week or two. So maybe that'll there's only 13 episodes, so that'll be our midpoint. So maybe we'll get some answers next week.
All right. Speaking about answers, midpoints, and Cape Crusaders, we get Superman and Lois.
Yeah.
I like this episode.
I did too.
I don't think that there's an episode of Superman and Lois where I really haven't liked at least 70 to 75% of it, if not more. It's just a very well written show. They do telegraph some things, but they also just here's my big takeaway. I apologize, people. I did watch Teen Wolf back in the day. I know Tyler Hoechlin from a lot of different things. I don't know why it's taken me this long to realize that the new General Anderson was also on Teen Wolf, and it just blew my mind this episode. Because like within 5 minutes, I'm looking at him and I'm like, Maybe if I like actually sat down and watched these shows instead of like half watching them, which I admit I do all the time, I would actually recognize people, but it just blew my mind, especially knowing their dynamic on Teen Wolf, which if you haven't watched Teen Wolf is actually a surprisingly good show. Just saying. Up until about the third season. The rest of the show is shit, but whatever. It can only go so long.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did not expect this episode to end where it did. I found that to be very cool. And I especially just the book ending kind of way of how we start the episode with that music and the Bizarro Superman and his world and just how that's mirrored at the end when Clark is captured for treason.
Yeah. I really
beautiful.
It was. I was just saying. I was definitely smile. Had a big goofy geek grin when seeing that bookend between the beginning and the ending of the episodes. And I mean this show this like you said, they do telegraph some things, but week in week out, this is a show I look forward to watching and seeing what we will learn about this week and the whole Bizarro thing. I mean that whole setup and in Bizarro's world. I mean he was the only one who looked bizarre. All the other people. The Lana, of course. Lana was in the pit there with the army people. As their super person, like we had the analogous ones on Earth Prime,
right?
And of course, the whole thing with Bizarro, using the inhaler for the green kryptonite, and the ties that, of course, now with Jonathan on Earth Prime, using the X kryptonite as far, so what are the connections and parallels there? I mean, why is Bizarro, having to do this inhaler, and is this kind of foreshadowing something that could happen to Jonathan? Especially, we see how him taking X kryptonite has made him aggressive and really shredded the bonds, relationship between him and Jordan.
I think that, and in seasons past, I have at least, praised the actor who plays Jonathan more than the actor who plays Jordan. And I think that this episode, the actor who plays Jordan, this is his best episode that he's done. Because that moment when he goes into the locker room and he just looks at Jonathan, like it's all about the eyes. Like, real acting when they're not saying anything, but they're telegraphing so many emotions. And I just really like that. And I like this turn that I think, and it's kind of relates to what we were talking about before with Naomi, where they may very well for the next episode too, or for the rest of the season, take almost a drug addict angle with the Jonathan storyline with the X kryptonite, and that he's probably going to stop taking it, but there's going to be ramifications from that, because he's going to constantly want it or something. So I and just the addiction to power and how even though we knew it was coming, we kind of knew that this rivalry is brewing. It does open doors for more storylines, especially with the boys and their sibling dynamic. Like the worst thing the show could ever do is develop a love triangle. Right. But yet they haven't gone there, thank God. And instead they're doing other things to put the strain, though, that is needed on their relationship, because they can't always be happy-go-lucky.
Right.
Jonathan can't always be fine being the normal,
Yeah.
normal twin.
Normal. Yep.
Even though he was the golden boy back in the day. So it's interesting what they're doing with that, and how it's so far very much a Jonathan Jordan storyline.
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of that, I don't even get bored with Lana Lang. How does that happen?
Yeah.
How does that happen with a show about Superman and Lois and the Kent family? How are we like, oh yeah, but now we're gonna, like, Lana's dealing with her husband cheating on her and finding out about this affair, and we got Sarah who's involved with the boys, but is also like, she has her own issues where she's gonna have to deal with that, and plus she almost committed suicide. Like, again, like these teenagers are they're thrown in situations that allow them to deal with semi-adult, like adult problems.
Yeah, I mean, it's adult problems. I mean, because Sarah was having to console her mother, and also be there for her little sister, which is like, it's like, wow, we got the little sister for 2 episodes in a row now. But you're right. I mean, she's having to step in there and like be the emotional support for her mom, and deal with the fact that she overheard her father admit to an affair, and having an overheard conversation with his mistress. I mean, it wasn't even like finding hearing it from their parents arguing or whatever. I mean, she heard it from her dad saying, "Leave me," discovering it there. So it's just like, so she's got all those things that she's dealing with. And then, you're right about Lana. One of the badass things that I thought and she did was confronting Tanya. I mean, right. and finding out about why, because Cal did the "I'm so sorry," the hangdog apologies and whatnot, and but Bus broke out the photo from them from high school and everything. But then when we learn from that conversation that the reason why he did it wasn't because of his love for Lana. It was more just to protect the kids and the family. Right. And then so and whenever she confronts him in the fire station about that, and he's like, "I still love you," and she's like, now that she knows, it wasn't because of them that he broke this thing off. It was, in his mind, he was doing a noble thing, like, I'm just protecting, I'm just trying to protect my family. But if he could have his cake and eat it too, he probably would have continued to do so. Right. And so, I this is one of those things that, we joke about these shows and things get resolved in 1 or 2 episodes, but who knows where this is going to go? I mean, they could, this is not going to get resolved in like 1 or 2 episodes.
No. And I mean, to that point, I think that just as much as there's not resolving, there's still this momentum where it's not that Sarah overheard the argument and the truth, and for 3 episodes she deals with that as a secret. No, she immediately confronts him. Yep. Her mom finds out, and then it's her mom dealing with that.
Yep.
So it's like, yes, there are things that are being addressed, but also the repercussions always linger for multiple episodes. I mean, the one negative right now is John Henry Irons still nowhere to be found.
Yeah, I was just thinking that. Yeah,
and Nat is now in absence as well from the show. Probably because we ended the last season with that point, and we started with it, but now we've kind of quickly delved down into Bizarro Land and Alley World and dealing with that.
But I think Yeah, yeah. But I think narratively now, the way things are structured with Clark being charged with treason, and and speaking to with Anderson and all that. I mean, I think it opens the door for John Henry to come back. One,
Yeah.
two.
So Lois can actually cheat on Clark, like what was foreshadowed at the cafe. Yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely
exactly.
thought of that.
Yeah, because that goes to my next point, which is the overarching theme with this whole season is all about trust.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's and that's what if someone to give the elevator speech, like what's season 2 of Superman and Lois about so far? It's all about trust, because in the breaking of trust, because we've had Lana and Kyle, we've had Lois and her sis and Lucy, and Clark and Anderson, and so on and so on. So I really all these different examples, I think are give me is what makes this a show that I continue to come back to, because I want to see how these characters deal with all these relationships where trust is at the core, and then that trust is broken, and how they deal with it. I think that's what again, that's what makes for good storytelling, is seeing how characters overcome the challenges that are presented before them.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think that is it for us tonight. Will, why don't you tell our listeners where they can find you?
Yes, you can find me on Twitter at Will M. Polk, WILLMPOLK.
And you can find me on Twitter at SJ Belmont, SJBELMONT. Please follow our crew on Twitter at SNN Nerd. Friend us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, and visit our website, www.snnnerdpodcast.com. But most importantly, rate, follow, and comment on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Good night, Geek Out. You're welcome.